The architectural history of Sofia. Sofia through time, from ancient Serdica to the modern capital. Sofia is not a city that can be understood in a single glance. It is a place where centuries do not replace one another, but instead settle on top of each other, forming a living archive of human civilization. As Bulgaria's capital and one of Europe's oldest continuously inhabited cities, Sofia's architectural history is a story of survival, transformation, and cultural fusion. Every stone, street, and structure carries echoes of empires that rose and fell, faiths that shaped identity, and people who rebuilt the city time and again. Ancient foundations, Thracian roots, and Roman Serdica. Long before Sofia was known by its modern name, the land was home to Thracian tribes who recognized the area's strategic and spiritual importance. Nestled between mountains and rich in natural springs, the region offered protection, resources, and trade routes. These early settlers left behind sacred landscapes and defensive settlements, setting the foundation for urban life. The true architectural transformation began with the Romans in the 1st century AD, when the city became Serdica, an important provincial center of the Roman Empire. Roman urban planning reshaped the settlement with order and precision. Straight stone-paved streets intersected at right angles, public baths served as social hubs, and forums acted as the heart of civic life. Massive defensive walls protected the city, while aqueducts ensured a steady water supply. Serdica held such importance that Emperor Constantine the Great famously declared, "Serdica is my Rome." This statement reflects the city's political and cultural significance within the empire. Even today, remnants of Roman streets, mosaics, and buildings lie beneath modern Sofia, visible in metro stations and archaeological zones. These remains remind us that the city's architectural story begins not above ground, but beneath it. Early Christian and Byzantine influence. As Christianity spread across the Roman world, Serdica became a center of early Christian worship. Churches and basilicas emerged, marking a shift from imperial pagan architecture to spiritual expression. The adoption of Christianity brought new architectural forms, including rectangular basilicas with apses, symbolic layouts, and richly decorated interiors. During the Byzantine period, Sofia, then known as Srdets, developed a distinctive religious architectural identity. Brick and stone construction, domed structures, and intricate symbolic design became defining features. Churches were not merely places of worship, but expressions of theological ideas through space, light, and geometry. One of the most enduring symbols of this era is the Church of St. Sophia, after which the city would later be named. Its simple yet powerful form reflects the spiritual resilience of the city. Even as political control shifted, Christian architecture remained a constant presence, anchoring Sofia's identity. Medieval Bulgarian architecture. With the rise of the Bulgarian empires, Sofia entered a new architectural phase shaped by national identity and Orthodox tradition. Fortresses were strengthened, city walls expanded, and monasteries flourished in and around the city. Architecture during this period balanced functionality with symbolism. Defensive structures were essential in an era of frequent invasions, while religious buildings served as cultural and educational centers. Medieval Bulgarian churches were often modest in size but rich in meaning. Frescoes, stone carvings, and cross-and-square layouts reflected both local traditions and Byzantine influence. Monasteries around Sofia played a crucial role in preserving Bulgarian language, art, and spirituality during times of political uncertainty. This period reinforced Sofia's role as both a strategic stronghold and a spiritual heartland, where architecture was deeply connected to national survival. Ottoman period. Transformation and continuity. In the late 14th century, Sofia fell under Ottoman rule, beginning nearly 5 centuries of profound urban change. Ottoman architecture introduced new building types and urban functions. Mosques, baths, hammams, fountains, and covered markets reshaped the city's skyline and daily life. Wood and stone houses with overhanging upper floors became common, reflecting Ottoman residential design. Despite these changes, Sofia remained a multicultural city where different religious communities coexisted. Christian churches continued to function, often modestly designed and partially concealed, preserving faith and tradition under foreign rule. Ottoman architecture emphasized social life and community spaces. Public baths were not only places of hygiene, but centers of interaction, while mosques acted as spiritual and civic anchors. This era added another architectural layer, blending Islamic design with the city's existing fabric. National revival and European influence. The 18th and 19th centuries marked a turning point in Sofia's architectural history with the Bulgarian national revival. As national consciousness grew, architecture became a tool for cultural expression and resistance. Churches, schools, and homes were built with renewed pride, showcasing craftsmanship, symmetry, and decorative detail. Revival houses featured stone ground floors, wooden upper levels, and richly ornamented interiors. Educational and religious buildings symbolized a reclaiming of identity and autonomy. Architecture during this period was not just functional, it was ideological. Following Bulgaria's liberation from Ottoman rule in 1878, Sofia was declared the capital of the new state. This decision triggered rapid urban development. European architects were invited to design public buildings, introducing neoclassical, neo-Baroque, and Renaissance styles. Wide boulevards, government institutions, and cultural landmarks transformed Sofia into a modern European capital almost overnight. Modern Sofia, socialist legacy and contemporary vision. The 20th century brought further architectural shifts, particularly during the socialist period after World War II. Monumental government buildings, expansive housing estates, and grand public squares reflected ideological priorities. Architecture became a tool of state power, emphasizing scale, uniformity, and permanence. After the fall of socialism in 1989, Sofia entered a new phase of transformation. Glass towers, business centers, and contemporary designs began to appear alongside ancient ruins and historic landmarks. The challenge of balancing preservation with modernization became central to the city's development. Today, Sofia is a city where Roman streets meet metro lines, medieval churches stand beside modern offices, and centuries coexist in everyday life. Conclusion: a living architectural museum. Sofia is not defined by a single architectural style or era. It is a city shaped by time itself. From Thracian settlements to Roman Serdica, from Byzantine churches to Ottoman mosques, from revival houses to socialist monuments and modern towers, Sofia tells the story of human endurance and adaptation. Its architecture is not frozen in the past. It is alive, evolving, and deeply connected to the people who inhabit it. To walk through Sofia is to walk through history, where every layer adds meaning to the next. This is what makes Sofia not just a capital city, but a living architectural museum of Europe. Sacred stones and power structures. Architecture as identity in Sofia. Architecture is never neutral. Every building, street, and monument reflects the power, beliefs, and ambitions of the society that created it. In Sofia, architecture is a language through which rulers declared authority, communities expressed faith, and generations shaped identity. As one of Europe's oldest cities, Sofia has been ruled by empires, kingdoms, and ideologies, each leaving behind physical evidence of their presence. To understand Sofia's architecture is to understand how power and belief have continuously shaped the city. Introduction: Architecture as a mirror of power. Sofia's strategic location in the heart of the Balkans made it a prize for conquering forces. Whoever controlled Sofia controlled trade routes, military movement, and cultural exchange. As power shifted hands, architecture became the most visible marker of authority. New rulers reshaped the city not only to serve practical needs, but to make ideological statements. Temples, churches, mosques, palaces, and government buildings all served as tools to assert dominance and define identity. Yet Sofia is unique because new structures rarely erase the old. Instead, power layered itself over time, allowing contrasting architectural languages to coexist. This layering reveals a city shaped as much by adaptation as by conquest. Pagan roots and Roman order. Before empires and organized religions, the earliest architectural expressions in Sofia were deeply spiritual. Thracian tribes considered the land sacred, particularly because of its mineral springs. Their settlements were closely tied to nature, emphasizing ritual spaces rather than monumental structures. Architecture during this time expressed reverence rather than authority. The Roman conquest introduced a radical shift. Architecture became a symbol of imperial control and rational order. When Sofia became the Roman city of Serdica, the Romans imposed their urban blueprint: straight roads, stone buildings, public squares, and fortified walls. The city was designed to demonstrate Rome's dominance and efficiency. Public buildings such as baths and forums were not only functional but ideological. They communicated Roman values of civic life, discipline, and hierarchy. Serdica's architecture proclaimed that this was no longer a tribal settlement, but a disciplined city under imperial rule. Power was now carved in stone. Faith in stone, early Christian and Byzantine architecture. With the rise of Christianity, architecture in Sofia took on a new dimension of power, spiritual authority. Churches replaced temples as the dominant architectural symbols. Unlike Roman buildings that emphasized scale and grandeur, early Christian architecture focused on meaning and symbolism. Space, light, and orientation were carefully designed to reflect theological ideas. During the Byzantine period, Sofia, known as Srdets, became a spiritual center. Brickwork, domes, and decorative patterns defined religious buildings. Architecture served as a visual representation of divine order. The Church of St. Sophia, with its restrained form and spiritual weight, embodied this shift. It was not designed to impress through luxury, but through presence and permanence. Byzantine architecture in Sofia blended imperial authority with religious devotion. The church was not separate from power, it was power. Rulers legitimized their authority through religious buildings, making architecture a bridge between heaven and earth. Medieval Sofia, fortresses and faith. As Sofia became part of the Bulgarian medieval states, architecture once again adapted to new political realities. Power during this period was fragile, threatened by invasions and internal conflict. This uncertainty was reflected in the architecture. Fortresses, walls, and defensive structures dominated the urban landscape. At the same time, monasteries and churches flourished. These religious institutions were more than places of worship. They were centers of education, culture, and national memory. Architecture became a tool of cultural resistance. Even when political control shifted, Orthodox Christian architecture preserved Bulgarian identity. Medieval buildings in Sofia balanced humility with resilience. Their modest size masked their deeper importance. Behind stone walls and simple facades, knowledge, faith, and tradition were protected. Architecture during this era was less about dominance and more about survival. Ottoman rule, Islamic architecture, and urban life. The Ottoman conquest in the late 14th century introduced a new architectural language that reshaped Sofia's identity. Mosques, minarets, baths, and markets became central elements of the city. Islamic architecture emphasized community, rhythm, and social life. Unlike medieval fortresses, Ottoman buildings opened the city outward. Mosques served as both religious and civic centers, while baths and bazaars structured daily life. Architecture reflected a different concept of power, one rooted in administration, social organization, and religious unity. The city's skyline changed, marked by domes and minarets. However, Christian architecture did not disappear. Churches continued to exist, often modest and partially hidden. This coexistence created a layered urban identity. Ottoman architecture did not erase Sofia's past, it absorbed it. The city became a mosaic of cultures, faiths, and traditions. National awakening through architecture. By the 18th and 19th centuries, architecture became a weapon of identity. During the Bulgarian national revival, building churches, schools, and homes was an act of resistance. Architecture expressed a growing desire for cultural independence and self-definition. Revival architecture combined local traditions with symbolic elements. Churches grew larger and more expressive. Schools became prominent landmarks, and houses reflected craftsmanship and pride. These buildings announced a cultural awakening long before political independence was achieved. When Bulgaria gained independence in 1878 and Sofia became the capital, architecture transformed rapidly. European styles replaced Ottoman forms. Neoclassical and neo-Baroque buildings symbolized a new national direction. Architecture was now used to project legitimacy, modernity, and alignment with Europe. State power and socialist monumentality. The socialist era brought another dramatic shift. Architecture became centralized, monumental, and ideological. Government buildings, vast housing complexes, and public monuments dominated the city. Scale was used to express collective power and state authority. Buildings were designed to be imposing, functional, and uniform. Individual expression was secondary to ideological messaging. Architecture communicated permanence and control, reinforcing the presence of the state in everyday life. Despite criticism, socialist architecture remains a crucial part of Sofia's identity. These structures tell the story of a society shaped by ideology and collective ambition. Sofia today, identity in transition. Modern Sofia is a city negotiating its past and future. Glass office towers rise beside ancient ruins. Churches, mosques, and monuments stand within walking distance of one another. Architecture today reflects diversity, tension, and transformation. Preservation and modernization coexist uneasily. Yet this contrast is precisely what defines Sofia. The city's identity is not singular. It is layered, complex, and deeply human. Walking through Sofia, an architectural journey street by street. To understand Sofia, one must walk through it. This city does not reveal itself through a single landmark or skyline. Instead, it unfolds step by step, street by street, layer by layer. Sofia is a place where centuries coexist in close proximity, where ancient ruins lie beneath modern roads, and where religious, imperial, and ideological architecture stand side by side. Walking through Sofia is like moving through a living timeline, where every turn introduces a new chapter of history. Opening scene, a walk through history. Imagine beginning your journey in the heart of the city, surrounded by the sounds of modern life. Traffic, voices, cafes. But just beneath your feet lies Roman stonework nearly 2,000 years old. Sofia is one of the rare capitals where history is not confined to museums. It is embedded in the urban fabric. Streets become corridors through time, and buildings become storytellers. This journey through Sofia is not about dates alone. It is about how architecture shapes daily life, and how people continue to live among the remains of their past. Beneath the city, Roman Sofia. Our walk begins underground, where the foundations of Roman Serdica still exist beneath modern Sofia. At several metro stations, glass panels reveal Roman streets, walls, and public buildings. These remains show a city built with intention: straight roads, stone pavements, and organized infrastructure. Roman architecture here was practical but symbolic. Baths were not just places to clean the body, but centers of social life. Forums served as political and economic hubs. The layout of Serdica reflected Roman ideals of order, governance, and permanence. Walking above these ruins today, one realizes that modern Sofia still follows the logic established by Roman planners. The decision to preserve and display these ruins within contemporary infrastructure demonstrates Sofia's unique relationship with its past. Instead of burying history, the city walks on it, quite literally. Sacred landmarks of faith. Emerging above ground, the journey continues through Sofia's spiritual landmarks, which define much of the city's identity. Few European capitals offer such close proximity between religious structures from different eras. One of the oldest is the St. George Rotunda, a simple red brick structure hidden among government buildings. Dating back to the Roman period, it has survived pagan rituals, Christian worship, and centuries of political change. Its modest exterior contrasts with its immense historical weight. Nearby stands the Church of St. Sophia, from which the city takes its name. Its austere design reflects early Christian and Byzantine architecture, emphasizing spiritual depth over decoration. This church symbolizes endurance, having withstood invasions, religious shifts, and natural disasters. The journey then leads to the Alexander Nevsky Cathedral, a striking symbol of modern Bulgarian identity. Built in the early 20th century, its grand domes and golden details reflect national pride and independence. Together, these religious buildings form a timeline of faith expressed through architecture. Ottoman Sofia above ground. Continuing the walk, the influence of the Ottoman era becomes visible. Though much of Ottoman Sofia has been altered or lost, key structures remain. The Banya Bashi Mosque, still functioning today, stands as a reminder of nearly 5 centuries of Ottoman rule. Ottoman architecture emphasized social interaction and daily life. Baths, fountains, and markets shaped the city's rhythm. Residential architecture featured wooden houses with overhanging upper floors, creating narrow, shaded streets. These design choices reflected climate, community, and tradition. Walking through these areas reveals how Ottoman architecture did not exist in isolation. It adapted to the city's older layers, creating a blended urban identity rather than a complete transformation. Revival Sofia, homes, schools, and craftsmanship. As the walk moves into neighborhoods shaped by the Bulgarian national revival, architecture begins to express resistance and renewal. Revival-era houses and schools reflect a growing sense of national consciousness during the 18th and 19th centuries. These buildings are characterized by symmetry, decorative woodwork, and stone foundations. Schools and churches from this period were often the most prominent structures in their communities, symbolizing education and cultural awakening. Walking past these buildings, one senses a quieter form of power. Unlike monumental empires, revival architecture speaks of local pride, craftsmanship, and resilience. These streets mark the transition from Ottoman rule to a reassertion of Bulgarian identity. European capital aspirations. The declaration of Sofia as Bulgaria's capital in 1878 dramatically changed the city's architectural direction. As the walk enters the city center, European influence becomes unmistakable. Wide boulevards, grand public buildings, theaters, and banks reflect styles borrowed from Vienna, Paris, and St. Petersburg. Neoclassical, neo-Baroque, and Renaissance-inspired facades express ambition and modernity. Architecture was used to announce Sofia's place among European capitals. These buildings were statements of progress and legitimacy, projecting a new national image. This part of the city feels intentional and ceremonial, designed to impress both citizens and visitors. It marks Sofia's transformation from a provincial town into a modern capital. Socialist city planning. Further along the walk, the architectural language shifts once again. The socialist era left a powerful imprint on Sofia's urban landscape. Massive housing blocks, expansive squares, and monumental government buildings dominate certain districts. Socialist architecture prioritized function, scale, and ideology. Buildings were designed to serve the collective, often at the expense of individuality. Walking through these areas feels different, more open, more rigid, and more uniform. Yet these structures are deeply woven into daily life. They house generations of residents and remain symbols of a complex historical period. Ignoring them would mean ignoring a major chapter of Sofia's story. Contemporary Sofia. The final stage of the walk brings us into present-day Sofia. Glass office buildings, modern shopping centers, and renovated historic structures share the same streets. Architects today face the challenge of balancing innovation with preservation. Adaptive reuse has become common, with old industrial and historic buildings transformed into cultural and commercial spaces. This approach reflects a growing respect for the city's layered identity. Modern Sofia is not trying to erase its past. Instead, it is learning how to live with it. Conclusion: a city revealed on foot. Walking through Sofia is not just an architectural experience, it is a human one. The city reveals its story gradually, through streets that connect centuries and buildings that speak across time. Sofia is not defined by a single style or era, but by the way its architecture allows history to remain part of everyday life. To walk through Sofia is to walk through Europe's past, present, and future, all at once. Empires, ideologies, and urban evolution, Sofia's architectural story. Sofia is a city shaped less by a single vision and more by the ambitions of many rulers, empires, and ideologies. Its architecture tells a story not of smooth progression, but of constant reinvention. Over centuries, Sofia has been conquered, liberated, reimagined, and rebuilt. Each era left behind structures that reflect its values, fears, and aspirations. To read Sofia's architecture is to read a history of power written in stone, brick, and concrete. Prologue: a city at the crossroads. Sofia's location has always been its destiny. Positioned at the intersection of important trade and military routes in the Balkans, the city was destined to be contested. Control over Sofia meant control over movement between Europe and Asia, the Adriatic and the Black Sea. This strategic importance ensured that Sofia would rarely know peace for long, but it also ensured continuity. Even when destroyed, the city was always rebuilt. Architecture became the most visible expression of each new authority. Rather than erasing the city, conquerors reshaped it, embedding their ideologies into its urban form. Roman rationality and infrastructure. The Romans were among the first to impose a coherent architectural vision on Sofia. As Serdica, the city was organized according to Roman principles of order and efficiency. Roads were straight and paved, public spaces were clearly defined, and infrastructure supported both military and civilian life. Roman architecture emphasized durability and logic. Aqueducts, baths, and defensive walls were designed to last, and many of these structures still influence the city's layout today. The Romans understood architecture as a tool of governance. A well-built city was easier to control, administer, and defend. This rational approach established a foundation that later empires would build upon. Even as styles changed, The Roman sense of urban order remained embedded in Sofia's structure. Byzantine spiritual expression. With the spread of Christianity and the rise of Byzantine influence, Sofia's architecture began to reflect spiritual ideals rather than imperial efficiency alone. Churches became the city's dominant landmarks, designed to express divine order and religious authority. Byzantine architecture in Sofia emphasized symbolism. Domes represented the heavens, light symbolized divinity, and spatial harmony conveyed theological meaning. Brick and stone construction techniques created buildings that felt both grounded and transcendent. During this era, architecture served two masters, faith and empire. Religious buildings reinforced political legitimacy, while spiritual authority strengthened imperial control. Sofia's churches from this period are quiet yet powerful, reflecting a worldview in which architecture mediated between God and society. Bulgarian medieval identity. As Sofia became part of the Bulgarian medieval states, architecture took on a new role, preserving identity in uncertain times. Frequent invasions and political instability shaped a defensive architectural mindset. Fortresses, city walls, and fortified monasteries dominated the landscape. Yet this was also a period of cultural resilience. Monasteries around Sofia became centers of learning, art, and spirituality. Their architecture was often modest but deeply symbolic. Frescoes, stone carvings, and carefully planned spaces expressed a uniquely Bulgarian Orthodox identity. Medieval Sofia's architecture reflects a society striving to protect its culture and faith. Buildings from this era may not overwhelm with scale, but they carry emotional and historical depth. Ottoman urban transformation. The Ottoman conquest in the late 14th century marked one of the most significant transformations in Sofia's architectural history. Over nearly 5 centuries of Ottoman rule, the city's urban character shifted dramatically. Islamic architecture introduced new forms and functions. Mosques, minarets, baths, and markets became central to urban life. Ottoman planning emphasized community spaces, daily routines, and social interaction. Architecture was not just monumental, it was lived in. Residential areas reflected this philosophy, with houses designed around courtyards and narrow streets. Public fountains and baths reinforced the importance of water, cleanliness, and communal life. Despite the dominance of Ottoman architecture, older Christian structures remained. Sofia became a layered city, where architectural styles overlapped rather than replaced one another. This coexistence defined the city's complex identity. Rebirth of a nation in stone. The decline of Ottoman power and Bulgaria's independence in 1878 ushered in a period of architectural ambition. Sofia, newly declared the capital, was rapidly transformed to reflect national rebirth and European alignment. European architects were invited to design public buildings, introducing neoclassical, neo-Baroque, and Renaissance styles. Government institutions, theaters, and universities expressed confidence and legitimacy. Architecture became a statement of sovereignty. This era marked a deliberate break from Ottoman aesthetics. Sofia's new buildings projected order, progress, and modernity. Streets widened, parks were planned, and the city began to resemble other European capitals. Architecture under socialism. The socialist period of the mid-20th century brought another ideological shift. Architecture was centralized, functional, and monumental. Large housing estates addressed urban population growth, while government buildings and memorials emphasized collective identity and state power. Socialist architecture favored simplicity, repetition, and scale. Buildings were meant to serve the masses and reflect ideological stability. Individual expression was minimized in favor of uniformity. Although often criticized, these structures are inseparable from Sofia's urban reality. They tell the story of a society shaped by ideology, industrialization, and centralized planning. Post-socialist Sofia and the global city. After 1989, Sofia entered a new phase of architectural experimentation. Market forces, globalization, and private investment reshaped the skyline. Glass towers, modern business centers, and contemporary designs appeared alongside historic structures. This period introduced new challenges. Preservation, modernization, and urban sprawl became key concerns. Architects and planners now face the task of integrating modern development without erasing the city's layered history. Adaptive reuse has become increasingly important, allowing historic buildings to find new life in a changing city. Conclusion: a city defined by change. Sofia's architecture is not a single story. It is many stories layered over time. Empires, ideologies, and cultural movements all left their mark, shaping a city that refuses to be defined by one era alone. What makes Sofia unique is not the dominance of one architectural style, but the dialogue between them. Roman rationality, Byzantine spirituality, medieval resilience, Ottoman community life, national ambition, socialist ideology, and modern experimentation all coexist within the same urban space. Sofia is not frozen in history. It continues to evolve, carrying its past forward into the future. One building, one street, and one generation at a time.